What's going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Football Busters podcast. Today is Thursday, February 9th. And joining me today is Eric. How you doing today, brother?
I'm doing good. You forgot to introduce yourself.
Oh,
His name is Will, by the way.
my name is Will. See, man, I'm just fucking up to start this video, but we're going to keep rolling through. Today, we are talking about our top five tight ends that are coming into this draft, our top five rookie tight ends coming in. This is gonna be one of the more strange lists. I feel like we're gonna have a lot of different players, even that. So we're both gonna be learning some stuff this video. I feel like, and hopefully you guys can find some value in this as well. So we're gonna go ahead and kick it off at number five. Who you got at number five, Eric?
So this one was close for me. I ended up going with Sam Laporta out of Iowa, but it was close between him and Luke Musgrave out of Oregon State. So keep him on your radar as well. But Laporta specifically, he's really good with the ball in his hands. I love his yak ability. He's a violent runner, and he was a good 4-year producer at Iowa. His best season did come last year as a senior with 58 receptions for 657 yards and a touchdown. It's not, huge production, but when you're getting down here this low on the tight end list, you're not going to see crazy numbers. I think he still needs to improve as a blocker and can probably add a little bit more nuance to his route running, but I think he's a really solid tight end prospect all around. And he can make an immediate impact at the NFL level.
Nice. I like that pick. For my number five, I have Will Mallory out of Miami. Just somebody
Okay.
who I saw at the Senior Bowl who performed very well. I believe he was like a top six rated player at the Senior Bowl. Uh, the top tight end at the Senior Bowl, obviously. But somebody who at Miami, 42 catches, 538 yards, and three touchdowns in the senior season, which was his best season out of all of them. He's just somebody that I could see. He has sort of the prototypical build at 6'5", 245. He's a good blocker, not a great blocker, but still good enough to get out there on the field. I just feel like he's one of those guys who's sort of a jack of all trades, but not really great at any one thing. But that's still enough for me to put him in my number five spot in this tight end rankings.
Yeah, I like that. And then we can go to the number 4 spot. I have Tucker Kraft out of South Dakota State. He's a little bit raw. Doesn't have a ton of production on his profile, but I think he's a pretty good athlete. He's also really good as a run blocker, so he shouldn't have to come off the field much. I think that'll keep him on the field and make him more attractive to NFL teams. His breakout year was his junior year, with 65 receptions for 773 yards and 6 touchdowns. He did end up missing a lot of games due to injury this year, so his production wasn't quite on par with that junior year. But again, I think he's a good athlete. I think he's a pretty fluid mover, and I liked what he put on tape that junior year.
Nice. No, I like that pick a lot too. He's someone I actually have to look into a little bit more. He's a name I saw, but I didn't really do a whole lot of research. But I like everything you said
Yeah.
about him. Number four, this is actually where I have Luke Musgrave. This is where he landed for me.
Okay.
I just feel like he's one of those guys. He's versatile enough to be both like in the line and then spread out wide. He has very good hands. He makes very active catches where he like plucks the ball out of the air, kind of. He doesn't just sit and wait on it. So that just higher chances of completions right there. And also he just uses his size pretty well in the vertical passing game. I feel like because he does have a large frame. He's like 6'6", 250. So he's a big guy. Knows how to use that as well. But the one thing that I do wish I think I need him to get a little bit better at is blocking. That's the thing that's going to keep him on the field the most too. But it's just a lot of plays I saw there just was effort lacking there. Effort and then but the well there is effort but he lacks technique is probably the best way to put that. He's there and he's trying but he's not really doing all the things he's supposed to do. And then when it just comes to him getting down the field, just working on better angling is anything that he needs to work on. But other than that, I do like him as a prospect. I do think he is a good fit for a lot of teams as long as he can clean up his blocking.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I do like him a lot, and like I mentioned, just off of probably would have been that number 6 spot. I am a little bit concerned just with his production profile. He's
Mm-hmm.
done like next to nothing, and a lot of that's due to injury. I know that he missed basically all of last year, but his highest reception total in a season is 22. Highest yardage total is like 300, which again, we've seen tight ends with limited production profiles come into the NFL and do really well, like a Dawson Knox and stuff like that. So I think on tape he looks good, and so I do like him quite a bit. So we can go to the number 3 spot here. and I'm gonna go with Darnell Washington out of Georgia. This guy is fucking massive. 6'7", 265. He looks like a tall defensive end playing tight end. It's kind of wild how huge he is. And with that size alone, like that's enough to make him a mismatch no matter who's covering him, whether it be a linebacker, safety, DB, doesn't matter. Always going to be a mismatch. He's a good athlete, but as you'd expect for somebody his size, he's not the most fluid route runner. He's not out there with the best footwork. He doesn't need to be, but he's also an elite run blocker for a tight end, which again should be really attractive to NFL teams and should keep him on the field for longer. So I think he's got great upside just because of his frame and athletic ability. And I do think he is a pretty good contested catcher as well. But honestly, I expect him to be a better NFL pro than fantasy contributor. I just think he's such an asset as a blocker with that size that might bring him down as far as like how many routes he's going to run for NFL offenses.
Yeah, I do. I feel that, but we've also seen a lot of tight ends who've come into the league that are primarily blockers that have just also extremely succeeded in the receiving department as well, like George Kittle.
Yeah.
T.J. Hawkinson was actually touted as a blocker more than a receiver. Noah Fant was the receiving tight end that year, I believe.
Yep.
But yeah, he's a big boy. It's a big boy.
He's huge, dude.
He's a big boy.
He's a mountain.
But at my number 3 spot, this is where Sam Laporta ended up for me.
Okay. Pretty high on him.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I was taking a look, and then it's just he's from Iowa as well, which is sort of like tight end university for me.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's like
true.
he kind of had to land a little bit high for me, but it's just a guy that can high point really well. He's got really good hands. I feel like he is a good blocker, so he is going to get on the field pretty soon. But like you said too, he really does need to work on his consistency. That's the one thing I've seen lacking. But in terms of like his college production, even I think he topped 650 yards last 2 years, scored 4 touchdowns in both seasons. So he's been able to do well as a receiver, and I just feel like once he starts to learn more and starts to figure out the NFL game, learns how to sit between coverages, stuff like that, he is going to be one of those guys who's really good at helping to move the sticks.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm going to make this point again like I did in our running back ranking video. That was your number 3?
Mm-hmm. Did I?
I mean, do we heavily disagree on one of these top 3 prospects?
Possibly. I mean,
we'll see. We'll see. We'll keep rolling.
I still got my last 2.
Okay, we'll find out. I'm curious, but I'll go into my number 2.
Okay.
And that's Dalton Kincaid out of Utah. Probably the guy that I'm most excited about out of this entire tight end group. He's also of my top 5. He's the smallest guy on the list at 6'4", 240. Not a concerning size, but just the other guys are like 250 and above. I do think he's the most natural receiver, has the best hands, and is probably the most athletic of the entire group. He is a little bit on the older side at 23.3 years old, but he had a fantastic senior season last year, catching 70 balls for 890 yards and 8 touchdowns, including a huge performance and a really tough game against USC where he went 16 for 234 and 1. I think that he's just a really, really fluid athlete and looks more like a receiver than, a traditional tight end out there. And I think that that's going to pay dividends come, NFL time on our fantasy rosters.
Yeah, and then I also agree with you. That's also my number 2. So if you guys can't tell, we all know who the consensus number 1 sort of is. The person that didn't really make my list was Darnell Washington. He would have been at my 6.
Okay, so that is all right.
He would have been in my 6 just because of the fact that I feel like his receiving is limited, but I would like to see it develop. He's someone I'm excited to see, but he's not quite in my top 5 just off of I would like to see more receiving out of him.
No, I like that. I'm not mad at that at all. I was just curious because I think for most people, Meyer, Kincaid, and Washington are in that kind of top 3 range. So
no, but
it's interesting, but not a bad thing.
But the way I'm looking at it, right, from a fantasy perspective, I feel like from a football perspective, yeah, that's 1, 2, 3, bang, 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 easy. But I feel like if you want a tight end that's really going to go out there and perform and get points for you and score for your fantasy team, I'd want to see more out of Darnell Washington before I'm throwing him in my fantasy lineup.
Honestly, I love that take. And I said something similar where I expect him to be a better NFL pro than fantasy contributor. I just think his upside, if they were to use him
No,
You
it's
know,
fair because he's gonna be on the field for sure because he
yeah,
can block. He's
yeah,
gonna be out there, so he's got to get mixed in some way. I just want to see
right.
how it happens.
No, I like it. All right,
Yeah,
continue. My bad.
yeah. But it's just like you said. I had Kincaid also at this too. I agree with everything you said there. So I feel like I would just be reiterating a lot of what you said with just a lot less facts. So we could
So you want to
probably,
go to number one?
yeah, we could probably move to number one,
Okay.
which is probably the consensus number one for everybody. Is Mr. Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame.
Yep.
He's just one of those guys who is sort of the complete package when it comes through a tight end. He's got the resume as well. He's technically one of the best receiving tight ends in college history in terms of just how he's finished. He's been able to top 1,000 yards. It's well, I'm just gonna read it off. As a sophomore and junior, he combined for 138 catches, 1,649 yards, and 16 touchdowns, which is just astronomical for a college tight end. It's not something you really see all too often. A lot of
Yep.
people are like comparing him to sort of like the perennial tight ends. I don't think he's quite up there with them, but time will tell. But at the same time, in terms of these tight ends and in terms of who has he's a good blocker, he's a great pass catcher, and he's just somebody who's going to be a mismatch. He doesn't have burner speed, but we've also seen tight ends that don't have burner speed also succeed in the league. Like he reminds me a lot of like Jason Witten type player
Okay. I could
almost,
see
except
it.
he's a little bit faster than Jason Witten. Jason Witten was slow as shit. But
Yeah.
in terms of
Yeah.
just being a good blocker and a great pass catcher, but not having that insane level of speed, he's not a freak athlete like a Kyle Pitts or anything like that. But he will be able to go out there and create some mismatches and make some big plays.
Yeah. 100%. I'm in full agreement. He's my number one. I think he's the total package. He had an amazing production profiling, 5 receptions and 800 yards in back-to-back seasons. That was good for a 35.8% dominator rating in the 95th percentile. If you look at experience-adjusted yards per team pass attempts, he outproduced guys like Kyle Pitts, Noah Fant, T.J. Hawkinson, and David Njoku for all 3 years of their college careers. So if you're just looking at the numbers, like this guy put up solid numbers. He's really really good in that aspect. But exactly like you said, the knock on him is just he's not an amazing athlete. He's not going to run a very fast 40, which I don't think is the end all be all at tight
Mm-hmm.
end by any means. I think he'll be just fine. He's got pretty good size again at 6'5", 250. And also he's an early declare, which you don't see very often from tight ends. So he's declaring as a junior, which it's a small sample size, but of the sample of guys that we've seen declare as a junior, the hit rate on those guys is typically a lot higher than your senior declares.
True. And I feel like this is one of those groups where it's a tier break sort of when it comes to Michael Mayer and then everyone else. It's sort of like a Bijan Robinson. He's like the Bijan of the tight end group, in my
So
opinion.
and I don't think that I
No,
don't
no,
think you're
no. If it's
wrong.
if it's wrong, say it's wrong. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm being genuine. I don't think that you're wrong for saying that. There's a lot of agree with you, but I've also seen a lot of people. Maybe they're trying to get trendy. Maybe they really believe it. And Kincaid is the tight end one of this class. I do think they're closer. I don't think he's like a Bijan tier away from the rest of the group. I think Michael Mayer is the number one, but Dalton Kincaid is up there, man. I really like him.
Okay. No, that's fair. That is very, very, very fair. But all right, so let's go ahead and give our list again, just so the people
Yeah.
will know it. That way, we'll have it all written out. So you want to give them your 5-1? I'll give them my 5-1.
Yeah, sure. So are we going top down or are we going bottom up?
Bottom up.
Bottom up. So my 5 was Sam Laporta out of Iowa. 4 was Tucker Kraft from San Diego State. 3 was Darnell Washington out of Georgia. Number 2 was Dalton Kincaid from Utah. And number 1 was Michael Mayer from Notre Dame.
And at my 5, I had Will Mallory out of Miami. At my 4, I had Luke Musgrave out of Oregon State. At my 3, I had Sam Laporta. At my number 2, I had Dalton Kincaid. And my number 1, I had Michael Mayer. So those are our top 5s. They'll be up here on the screen. That way you guys can take a look at them as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it right there. Eric, you want to let the people know anything?
Yeah, so again, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for sticking for as long as you did. Engage with us in the comments. We've been getting a lot of engagement recently. Appreciate it. So let us know who you think your top 5 would be. If you agree, disagree with us, any of that stuff. Any questions about any of these prospects, we'd be more than happy to answer. And then, yeah, go do all that good YouTube stuff that helps us out, get us out in the algorithm. So
Hmm.
subscribe if you want to see our videos coming out in the future. We got more rankings videos, more mock drafts, all that good stuff in the Dynasty offseason. Hit the like button. That helps us out a ton. And check out our other social media platforms down in the description below. We're on TikTok, we're on Twitter, we're all over the place. So hit us up. But yeah, did I hit everything? We got anything else left to say before we get out of here?
Nah, I think you got everything right there. But yeah, you guys made it this far. Thank you for watching, and as always, we love you, and we will catch you in the next video. Peace.
Peace.